Before there were pharmacies on every street corner, before shelves were lined with pills and packaged syrups, people turned to the plants growing just outside their door. Every backyard, every homestead and every farmstead had its patch of remedy plants. These weren't grown for decoration. They were grown because families depended on them. If you got sick, if you were cut, or if the seasons brought on aches and fevers, these plants were the difference between recovery and suffering. Our grandparents and great-grandparents knew their value, and many of these plants have been pushed aside today in favour of store-bought solutions. But the truth is, old-fashioned remedy plants still work, still grow easily, and still carry wisdom that every serious gardener and survivalist should reclaim. Let's dig into some of the essential remedy plants Grandma always grew, and more importantly, how you can bring them back into your own soil. Calendula was the healer for wounds and skin troubles. Calendula, often called pot marigold, was a staple in the old remedy garden. It was prized for its ability to treat cuts, burns and rashes. Grandmothers would pluck the bright orange and yellow blossoms, dry them, and then steep them in oils or make simple salves. Calendula carries antibacterial and anti-inflammatory compounds that soothe the skin and speed healing. To apply this today, grow calendula in a sunny corner of your garden. Harvest flowers once they fully open, dry them, and then place them in a jar filled with olive oil. Let that sit for a few weeks and you'll have a homemade calendula oil that can be rubbed on scrapes or used as the base for a healing balm. Yarrow was the soldier's herb that never left the home garden. Few plants carry a history as rich as yarrow. It was known as soldier's woundwort because it was used on battlefields to stop bleeding. In the household garden, yarrow served the same purpose. Grandmothers dried the feathery leaves and kept them in jars so they could be applied directly to cuts or brewed into teas for fevers. Yarrow helps blood clot quickly, reduces inflammation, and has mild antiseptic properties. A practical way to use it today is to grow yarrow along the edge of your garden, or even in wild areas since it thrives in poor soils. Once dried, the leaves can be powdered and stored in small tins. Applied to a fresh cut, it works just as it did a century ago, fast and reliable. Chamomile was the evening tea for nerves and sleep. Every remedy garden had chamomile because its gentle calming effects were trusted by all generations. Whether for a restless child, a sick family member, or an anxious farmer waiting out a storm, chamomile tea was the go-to answer. Its blossoms contain compounds that ease digestion, calm the nervous system, and promote sleep. To make your own, harvest the small daisy-like flowers when they're fresh, dry them on a screen, and store them in airtight jars. A teaspoon steeped in hot water makes a soothing tea. This isn't just nostalgia, it's a functional remedy still backed by science and as practical today as it was in your grandmother's time. Comfrey built strength back into bones and muscles. Known as knitbone, comfrey was grown specifically for sprains, bruises and bone injuries. Grandmothers would pound the large, hairy leaves into a poultice and wrap it around injuries to speed recovery. Comfrey contains allantoin, a compound that encourages cell regeneration. While it shouldn't be taken internally due to potential liver toxicity, its topical use is still valued for healing bruises and soothing sore muscles. Plant comfrey in a permanent spot since it spreads vigorously. Cut the leaves, mash them or infuse them into oil and apply externally. This was the kind of knowledge passed down carefully because it was essential for families who didn't have easy access to doctors. Peppermint was both medicine and comfort in a cup. Peppermint was indispensable for stomach ailments, headaches and general comfort. Its cooling menthol eased indigestion, soothed coughs, and even served as a mild decongestant. Grandmothers often kept jars of dried peppermint leaves and brewed them after heavy meals or during colds. For your own garden, plant peppermint in a container or confined bed, since it spreads aggressively. Dry the leaves and keep them on hand for teas, or crush fresh leaves into a steam inhalation for congested sinuses. This is one of the simplest remedies to grow, yet one of the most versatile. Elder was the household's seasonal shield. The elder bush provided both flowers and berries, and both were used medicinally. The blossoms were dried for teas that treated colds and fevers, while the berries were cooked into syrups to strengthen the immune system. Families relied on elderberry syrup to get through harsh winters, and it was often the first line of defence when illness swept through a household. To apply this today, grow elder in a sunny or partially shaded spot. Harvest berries only when fully ripe, cook them into a syrup with honey and store them in bottles for winter use. This practice goes back centuries and remains one of the strongest ties between old-fashioned remedy gardens and modern herbal medicine. The wisdom of remedy gardens is still relevant today. What ties all of these plants together is more than their healing power. They represent a way of life where health and resilience started in the backyard, not in a store. These plants weren't just useful, they were necessary. Families knew that their survival often depended on knowing how to treat common illnesses, and the garden was their pharmacy. For modern gardeners, growing these plants isn't just about nostalgia. It's about reclaiming practical skills that make you less dependent on outside systems. A patch of calendula, a stand of chamomile, or a row of comfrey doesn't just provide remedies. It connects you directly to the same traditions that carried your grandparents and great-grandparents through uncertain times. The old-fashioned remedy plants your grandmother grew still have a place in today's gardens. They worked then, and they still work now. By bringing them back, you're not just growing herbs, you're growing resilience, history, and a living connection to the wisdom of the past. If you found this guide valuable, subscribe to the Backyard Wisdom channel for more history-rooted survival knowledge, and share this with friends who care about keeping old traditions alive. These plants are more than garden ornaments. They are living medicine, and their legacy deserves to continue.